Hello, my name is Cody Hall, and I'm the host of The Faces Entrepreneurs Are People Too. And today I'm welcoming Jonathan Breeden, the founder of a family law firm serving North Carolina for over 25 years, and the founder of Breeden Law Office. Jonathan is going to share with us how he built this purpose-driven practice, scaled his business with empathy, and turned challenges into leadership growth. Join us today and discover what it takes to build a business like this that truly makes a difference. Jonathan, sir, how are you today?
Doing great. I'm doing great, Cody. Good to talk to you.
Oh, sir, I've been waiting for this conversation with a fellow Carolinian, right? For some time now.
Well, I know. I mean, I know you're from the Charlotte area. We've talked about that off air, and I grew up in Laurinburg, North Carolina, just about 100 miles east of where you grew up in the Charlotte suburbs. And I now have been practicing law here in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina, for 25 years. And we also have an office in Raleigh, and we just moved it to Cary a couple of weeks ago. And I know you're familiar with that area. And
Of
yeah,
course.
it's a small world. I mean, you're down there in Cabo now, and living the dream, and I'm up here in the suburbs, Raleigh, cheering for the NC State Wolfpack and the Carolina Hurricanes hockey team.
There you go, right there, Wolfpack
That's it.
represented
That's
right
right.
there.
Good job. That's right.
Hey, listen, I went to
Make the
UNC
wolf
Charlotte,
sign. Well, you gotta get some wolf
right?
ears and
Because
his nose.
hey,
That's awesome.
I would have gone to NC State. They just didn't want me, right?
Hey, you're doing just fine. You're doing just fine.
I agree. We know it's interesting though because say Carrie, Carrie's a name. As soon as you say it to me, it's some deep wounds for Carrie for me because Carrie used to beat my butt every year in state for wrestling. I mean, we used to go to states and they would spank us. So when I hear the word Carrie, I twitch a little bit because they have some mean programs for football and wrestling there.
Yeah, the imps is Cary High School is I don't even know what an imp is, but that's always been the Cary High School mascot. So anyway,
Oh, well, sir, so we're up in the Raleigh Durham triangle. We were in the triangle of things. What type of law are we practicing up there, right?
yeah, we do family law here. So I'm Jonathan Breeden. I'm the owner of the Breeden Law Office. We've been doing family law here in the greater Raleigh area for the last 25 years. We do child custody, child support, adoptions,
Oh,
guardianship,
yes.
alimony, property distribution, domestic violence, anything that really does with family. We do simple wills, powers of attorney. We don't do anything that would be like any real serious estate planning with trust and stuff like that. But yeah, we've been doing this for 25 years here, and it's been an interesting adventure. The first 20 years was largely me and 2 or 3 employees, and, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I thought, "You know what? Maybe I could scale this, and maybe there's a better way to do this than working all the time and making the same amount of money and not seeing my family as much as I did." And, I was very fortunate to hire a marketing company out of Columbus, Ohio, called Postali, and I hired them in 2016, and they built me one of the top 10 family law websites in North Carolina. We talk about you being from
Wow.
Charlotte. The last time I was in Charlotte, I started searching for domestic violence attorneys near me, and I was popping up on the first page 3 hours away from Raleigh. So that's how dominating a website they built for me.
Wow.
And so I went from having just enough to more than I could do. And I didn't exactly know what to do. So I was sending the stuff out, but nobody was sending anything back to me. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe we could find some people to help us and we could figure out a way to maybe scale this thing to where I could work those leads and be able to help the people the way I help people. They wanted me, I just didn't have the capacity. And so that's what we started to do.
No, I love that. Family law, pause, tough business, right? And tough, not in the sense of there's not a lack of it, but just tough business. I have to say, unfortunately, I've been the subject to divorce, and I've also been the subject to custody battle, right? And can't tell you which one is worse. um, but how is it to be on the other side of that, to be the lawyer in the middle? Is it kind of, I mean, is it numbing over time?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's good and bad, right? Like, I choose to practice this kind of law because I like to help children. My goal in getting into family law was trying to
Yeah.
help children you either get out of bad situations into better situations, or what I really like is a lot getting fathers access to the children that they weren't gonna get if I didn't do something, because the mother was mad the relationship ended and wanted to eliminate the father from the child's life. Even though the father's a good guy, the mother's just being too self-centered and not thinking about what's best for the child. And so that was my initial foray into family law, was trying to help fathers who were not seeing their children get access to their children, and, representing parents, whose children had been removed by the state and trying to get their kids out of foster care, helping these parents get better so that they can reach minimum standards to get a chance to raise their child. Maybe not the way Cody and I would raise our children, but still be able to raise their children the way they saw fit, and the child be
Yeah.
safe, which, you know, was always interesting. So that was my initial foray into it. But I really enjoy it. I know that there's a lot of emotions, and I've taken my share of verbal abuse, and I've been stalked, and I mean, the things that happen in family law. But the overwhelming majority of it has been positive, and I've enjoyed working with people and trying to help them get better and help them realize that a divorce or a separation, if you have kids and you even if you weren't married, it's the same to me, is a beginning, not an end, right? We got a whole life still to live.
Right.
And a lot of people want to
I
go
love that.
back and look at the past and feel sorry for themselves. And there's a lot of everybody's a victim on TV, and that accomplishes nothing. And so there's a lot of trying to convince people that they need to look forward, come up with a plan to move forward, help get them the finances to let them move forward, and then seeing where they end up. The good thing about being at the same intersection here in Johnston County, right outside of Raleigh, um, for the last 25 years is you see kids grow up, and then sometimes you do their cases and they separate, and your client's grandchildren. Um, and so
Yeah.
it's been interesting, or have people come up to you that you have no idea who they are, and they tell you they're now an adult, and they thank you for getting them away from one parent and to another parent, how well their life went on and how they went to college and how they're teaching school, and, how the parent you got them away from died of a drug overdose or has battled homelessness or is still kind of a
Wow.
mess, but they ended up being better because of the advocacy that we did. I mean, those are the things that you're not gonna get doing any other kind of law, and those are
That's
the things
a
that you hold your hat on. I've got a whole thing of thank you letters and cards and all this stuff over here on this bookcase that people have sent me over the years for the things that I've done to help their families, and, that means a lot.
no, I mean, that is a perspective because initially you think about, man, wow, what a negative part of law to be in, right? And then you think, like, actually, let me see the perspective that I see from. And you're absolutely right. There are, I myself, right? Too many examples from me. Like my grandmother raised us, so it was a good family lawyer who got her primary custody of me and my brothers, and she raised us in the Carolinas, and so that was an incredible experience. But thank goodness she did. Right, we're sitting here before you today because of that, and all because of good law. And so that's wonderful. That's incredible. And so you've been in business this entire time by yourself. You always wanted to be a lawyer, or were you one at one point in time in another practice before you got off on your own?
No, I decided in the ninth grade when I read the Federalist Papers and the Constitution in the required North Carolina civics class, and I'm sure you took Cody in Mecklenburg County, a few years ago. You remember that was
That's funny.
one
Yeah.
semester of civics and one semester of economics, right? And reading those papers and just placing myself where those colonists were and what they saw was right. America's going to come up on its 250th anniversary next year.
Yeah.
July 4th, 1770. I mean, July 4th, 2026, from 1776. It's really, really exciting. And so that made me start to think, okay, pretty good at English and history. I was okay at math, but I really liked this sense of justice and doing things the right way. So in ninth grade, I decided to become an attorney. I sort of there in Lombard, North Carolina, I sort of mapped out how I was going to do it. I was going to graduate from high school in '93. I would graduate from college in '97. I would then go to law school for 3 years. I graduated from law school in 2000. And that's pretty much how I went. I did finish undergrad at NC State a year early. So I graduated from NC State in 96. I did graduate from law school in 2000. And I knew going into law school that I wanted to work for myself. My father was a small town CPA there in Laurinburg, North Carolina. He always enjoyed working for himself. He never made $1 million, but he always enjoyed it. And it was his, and he worked a lot of hours as a CPA, particularly during tax season, but he never complained. Not once. He worked 80, 90 hours because it was his and he was helping people and he could design it the way he wanted to design it, and he could represent the people he wanted to represent. So I knew from watching him that I wanted to be a small business owner. And the best
That's
way to do it was
wonderful.
to do it coming straight out because coming out of law school, I didn't have any money. So any money I made, I thought I was rich. But if I'd have gone and gotten a job and somebody started paying me money and I'd have started living that lifestyle, to start at the bottom with nothing, would have probably been impossible and I may have never done it. And so that's what we did. I'm fortunate I went to Campbell University's law school. I start your own law firm program. It's one of the reasons I went to that law school. They still have a similar program there today. The law school is now in downtown Raleigh. When I went, it was in Bowie's Creek, about 35 minutes south of Raleigh, where Campbell University is based. The law school is now separate from the main campus and has been since 2009. But when I went there, it's a practical law school, and I knew I could take that start your own law firm class, which I did. And, I learned a ton. And like I said, I learned even more trying to figure it out. But like I said, because I was a single guy, I had no girlfriend, I was 25, I was driving this Honda Accord that my parents gave me. Gas was 99 cents a gallon. That first year, I think
Made
I
it
needed
possible.
$2,500 to break even. I think my living expenses were 1,200 and my operating expenses were 1,300. 2,500 I could break even because I didn't have any staff. I did it myself. I forwarded calls to a StarTAC flip phone with a little pull-up antenna. You're probably too young to remember those, Cody, but those
No,
were
no, no. I know
yeah.
what they are.
Yeah, right, you probably seen them, but, and I just did that. I got on the court-appointed list, and I represented, criminal misdemeanors, just criminal felonies. I represented parents, whose children were in foster care, people that didn't pay their child support, uh, and, whatever people hired me and what was showing up, I was in the suburbs, and what was showing up in the suburbs were young families that were splitting up, and so I wanted to eat. I started to really enjoy the work, so I just kept doing it. And by 2007, 2008, I had enough family law that I needed to quit doing the criminal law, get off the business, and just focus on growing the family law side of the business. And that's where we went.
I love it. It's that is much how I thought about when I first like started my first business. I was like, you know what? All I need is this much money every month. So if I just make just this much money every month, I'm going to be able to try again next month, right? And if I just make just this much next month, I'll try this. I was so jealous of one of my friends who started his business after the Marine Corps. And when I got out of the military, I went straight into big technology, big companies, right? Which was nice, right? Get a lot of experience. I went on to start work with startups. They pay you really well. And I was like, this is nice. But when you start working for yourself, you're like, all right, well, here's my expenses every month. I need to make this. And the great thing that I had going for me is, I'm retired military. So I get retirement. And so when I stopped making money, right, I was like, okay, so as long as I don't exceed this per month, like I'm not going to starve. Right. And so that's all I have to do. And I love that mentality. And I love that you were scrappy out there. It's like, hey, listen, I'm in the suburbs. Divorce is taking place in the suburbs.
30, 30, the first month, about 4 months in, I made $5,000. I mean, I thought I had won the lottery. I brought in $5,000 in third or fourth month I was in business. I finally closed out a couple court-appointed cases, had a couple retained cases, and I mean, I was rich. I went to the Outback Steakhouse because I'd brought in $5,000 in 1 month, and I mean, that was hot cotton back
I
then,
love,
and,
I love
you
it.
know and look, and all of that laid the groundwork for me to become the business owner and leader I am today, where we're a multi seven figure firm with 24 lawyers and 9 attorneys and all of that. But if I didn't start there, I wouldn't be here.
Correct.
And I never thought I was gonna get here, Cody. I mean, I never thought that somebody like you with such a successful podcast would wanna talk to me, because I didn't think I had a story to share. But what happened over the last 5 years, where I went from 3 employees who all quit in June of 2020 at the same time. I had no employees, to the 24 employees we have today, is quite the adventure. But it also took a lot of, a lot of personal introspection. I had to become a better leader. I had
Yeah.
anxiety and a lot of anxiety, and that was coming out on team members and everything else, and financial stress, and I had to become a better person. I had to get into counseling. I had to figure out how to deal with this anxiety. I had to learn how to build systems that were repeatable, that I didn't have to manage every day. And so one of the things I did other than get a counselor was go get a and I realized that I needed and I'm so naive. I thought I need to find a coach because coaches have scripts because I need to be able to answer the phone the same way every time. That's why I thought I wanted a coach. Now I've learned 5,000,000 things from my coach, Richard James, but the first thing I wanted was scripts so I could answer the phone the same way every time. So it's funny that you start out looking for that, and then you get all this other stuff
All that other stuff.
from workflows to who answers to who, to goals on P&Ls, to profit first, to all kinds of stuff. But what I was calling coaches for is I wanted scripts to answer the phone.
Can I have a script, please? Can I have a script, please?
Yeah, right. Seriously, right? And of
I
course,
love it.
they were
I
like, you
love
can have a script, but you got to pay us and sign up for our program. I'm like, well, how quickly can I get out once I get the script? You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god. Well, that's it's so funny because some people, just they go in looking for something and you get so much more, right? And I, we get to do one of my small jobs here at Telehelping is I get to coach our new clients because not everyone comes on as 23 employees, Jonathan. But you know how rewarding it is if you when you give someone that script, right? Someone comes to me and they're like, I want to hire a virtual assistant. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what do you want them to do? You're like, I just don't want to work all day anymore. I'm like, all right, great. Like, what are we trying to do here? And they're like, hey, I just need someone to answer the phone and call these 200 people a day because right now I'm doing it. I'm like, do you have a script? He's like, no, I just call them. I'm like, let's make a script. Right. And then you're like, it's just a script. But when you get that script, they're like, boof, right. And then you open up the
No, that's, I
possibility.
mean, look, a script is life changing. My coach his has 11 steps, right? 11 steps to a phone call where you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, um, and, qualify them as somebody you can help or not help, also building a relationship with them at the same time. And, there's an art form to that too, including, the order of which you talk to me because we're charging for consults. So before they get to the end of the 11 steps, they're gonna ask you for a credit card over the phone. The people, my employees on the phones are in El Salvador, or you're in Cabo, and, they've got to be able to convince this person, give a credit card to somebody sitting in El Salvador to book a consult, come see us here in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina, so that we can help them. And that's not easy to do. So that does take training and repetition,
Yeah.
scoring of calls and stuff like that. And that's something that we've been able to provide, and the coaching helps provide as well. And we now use our Filipino employees to help store the intake calls in the El Salvador, and we're all here on the same team, pulling the same way, which is trying to help children. And I tell everybody, wherever you're at, everybody's on this team. Everybody plays a vital role in El Salvador, the Philippines, here in Garner, North Carolina, wherever you're at, virtual paralegals, doesn't matter. We're all here. We all have a role to play in
I
helping
love it.
these families and helping these children. And if we all do our job, we will help more families and more children. And that's what we should do to sleep at.
I'm gonna have them caption this part of the podcast, and we're just gonna change out Filipino with El Salvador with Mexico. And so, hey, yeah, no, I love that you do that, John. I mean, some of my most successful clients, the ones who talk just like you did just now, right? Like, and I say this to someone just recently, and I said, make them a part of your team, right? Don't just give them a script, right? Script's great. Don't give them a script. Say, hey, call these 200 people per day, post on this social media, and then go away. And then I'll talk to you tomorrow morning, right? I love that you're like, hey, listen, you're like, we're here for a mission, right? You're picking up the phone, you're storing data. All this is for the purpose of the children, right? And when I see people do that, right, it's just one, happy virtual staff members, right? Which means happy Cody's, right? Which means my job is much easier because the person loves where they work. So I appreciate you and how you loop in your international staff to your team. That's an incredible feat.
Well, I started out with employees, and my first overseas employee was in Puerto Vallarta, and my second overseas employee
Hey,
was in Guadalajara, and my third overseas employee was in San Salvador, El Salvador. So, but one of the things I learned from talking to people that had overseas employees, when I joined this coaching program, I didn't know what a CRM was, client relationship management. I had no idea. I didn't know what a CRM was,
you
and
know
I had
that.
no idea about nearshoring. I had no idea about nearshoring employees. Right? I had no clue how this was going
Yeah,
to work. But one of the things that I learned from the first nearshoring company I was working with, called HRPD, which is Human Resources for Malta, was you really need to make them part of the team. And so we, do daily meetings, daily huddles. Like we have stand-up meetings like the military has, like Walmart has. And so every morning, everybody gets on with their team, everybody where they are in Philippines, El Salvador, they broke into teams and their team leader, and they answer three questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? Is there any bottlenecks that I can help you resolve so that you can get done what you need to get done today? And they can talk to their team lead, and if there is a bottleneck, they have a problem, another team member can answer it, or they can get it to me or the COO or somebody, and we're going to fix it, before 9:15 if we can, so
I
that
love
they
it.
don't another day to a problem, right? We use Slack, right? My little team of 23 or 24 sends 2,500 Slack messages a week. They're in instantaneous contact with each other all the time. Remember, the phones don't ring here in Raleigh, North Carolina. The phone only rings in El Salvador. So, Cody Hall client calling in wants to speak to Jonathan Breeden. Jonathan Breeden's going to get a Slack. Hey, Cody Hall's calling. Can you take it? Say yes. They transfer it to me. If I say no, then schedule a time for me to call you back. But so you have to have that real time communication. Well, you're
Correct.
monitoring. I'm sending them email every day. Like it's no different than if they were here. I've got remote paralegals. It's the same thing. So
You're
they
my
are
you're my favorite
you're
person.
communicating with them all day, every day. Hell, we have to because they're the ones answer the phone.
You're my favorite person, John. I know. I can't wait for you to give Mexico another try because you're just your approach is absolutely right. You said it so well. The phone's not ringing here; it's ringing in El Salvador. Like that was perfect because that's the truth, right? And communication, communication, communication. I love the use of Slack, and I think that you're absolutely right. When you started your practice, who you were then wasn't who you needed to be today to have your 24 employees, but you had to get there. And anxiety, I mean, it's a real thing. Listen, I talk about money, right? I tell people all the time because I have a good friend of mine who I'm trying to mentor, former Marine, was in the military. He wants to start his own business, but like he wants like it was a pop up a tent, right? Right. And then it makes money, like print the money. And I say, he's like, well, you got telehelping, I'm like, yeah, but let's talk about telehelping, right? Like, it wasn't a straight line. Like there were periods of times, 2 years into telehelping, we had one client because we had lost all of our client through attrition, regulations changed, different rules and regulations. We were down to one client. I'm like, man, I better go get a job. So, and then but now we're sitting on hundreds of clients, and it's different because people just think it's a straight line. And you said it before we got pre-recording. Everyone wants to be a millionaire. No one wants to do millionaire things. And I'm not talking about the boats and the lake houses. I'm talking about the fact that every day this week I will start at 6 a.m. and I will work until 7 p.m. This week, just so I can be at a
No, that's
conference
right.
all next week.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely, and, we gotta if you have employees come, you have employees leave, you gotta pick up the slack. I work, 60, 70 hours a week for many, many years. I worked every weekend for probably 4 or 5 straight years between 16 and 20 when this thing was growing, and I didn't have any idea how or why. and I didn't understand how I could repeat a number every month because I didn't understand my number. But one of the things you have to understand, if you're going to scale any business, and I don't care if you're a lawyer or not, I'm talking about business. You got to
Business.
understand how many leads you have, how many sets you're getting from those leads, how many of those sets that want to talk to you show up, what percentage of people are buying, how many people are referring cases to you, what's your average case value, and you do it all over again. If you understand those numbers, you can scale any business in the world. But if you don't know those numbers,
Correct.
no business is going to scale because you have no idea how you're going to get there.
Correct. We know one thing that we did really well because are you familiar with, so there's something called gaps, right? Like, gaps like, gain clients, right? Align labor to meet clients demand, right? Policies and procedures to support the two first things, and then scale to your next issue, right? You get the clients, you build the team to align the clients, you build the policies to support the team to do the clients, and then you grow until it becomes a problem. One of those become a problem again. Either you don't have enough clients, you don't have enough staff, or you need to change the policy, and then you do it over and over again. It happens all the time, right? Tell up one time we were growing too fast. We couldn't keep clients because we didn't have enough managers like you. I'm sure at some point you had too many cases coming on board. You're like, I don't have enough lawyers, right? I don't have enough paralegals. And then you're like not being able to take cases and perform well. And you're like, okay, well, got the client thing figured out. Let me go over here and unscrew this part of this. And then you're like, okay, I got this figured out. I need more clients because now I've hired all these people. I need to make them busy. And then it's repeat and repeat.
I mean, that's really it. And it's scary to go hire people because they're going to get paid before you get paid. And
Yeah,
but you can hone in on your numbers and believe in the numbers and look at real numbers, not numbers that you're telling yourself, real numbers. Uh, then you can have the confidence that if you go hire these people, you can get the work to be able to pay them. You
correct.
don't, the last thing you want to do as a family lawyer is, which is what most family lawyers do, which is they have too much work. And so the product that they're putting out is bad. They don't charge enough money. They don't have staff. They don't have systems. And so they end up with 75, 80 cases, and they can't really manage but 25 or 30, and the product is terrible, and they got one paralegal. And I mean, literally, the bar for customer service for law firms is really laying on the ground. Joey Coleman says that in the book, Never Lose a Customer Again. He is absolutely
Lay on
correct.
the
And
ground.
so if you do anything to raise that bar up, you are, you're going to be able to stand out. And that's what I try to do here. Now, my goal, since I no longer actually practice law, they do all the cases, is to how can I make the client experience better? So I spend a lot of time listening to Disney execs podcasts. There's a couple of them out there creating Disney magic. And if Disney ran your life with Jeff Knoll, that was out for a few years ago, creating it's no longer out, it's still out there, but he's not doing new episodes. And creating Disney magic with Lee Cockrell. These are two ex Disney executives that just talked about their careers at Disney, what they learned, and how Disney went about trying to mastermind the client experience and the customer experience and the employee experience. Disney does not pay the best, but there's a line of people out the door who want to work there because
Correct.
of the experience of being a cast member and stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing that I've been able to pivot to as I've grown, and I have fewer cases that I can focus on because I don't know. It's Herb Kohler at Southwest, right? He said, "I'm going to build this business on my employees, and the rest will take care of itself." I think I'm right with the name on that. I get all
Yeah.
these people mixed up. Herb Kohler may have not have been the Southwest guy. He may have been the owner of a
It's
sports
hard to
team, but
keep up with all
whatever.
the good comments.
Right, right. All the good guys. Right. It's anyway, but I may have the wrong name, but whatever it was, the guy that took Southwest from bankruptcy to Southwest Airlines now, and his thing was, I'm going to make the employee experience the best as it can be. Then the rest will take care of itself. And that's actually what happened. And I hope that they stick to that now that they've sort of been taken over by this equity fund and they're
I'm trying
charging
to
the fees
figure
and
out,
all that.
I'm trying to figure out who said it. I wish I was
Yeah.
like Joe Rogan and I had a way to search it up real quick, but someone says you take care of the people take care of the rest. Someone says it, was that him? I think it may have been him, but I think that's the absolute truth because if you think about it, the people is taking care of your people, HR, and then you have the people taking care of the clients, right? So of course it maths.
I was right. I just Googled it while we're sitting here talking. It is Herb Keller. It's, I think that's how you say it. It's Kelleher. So,
Sounds correct.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, and there's a road named after him that goes to Love Field Airport in Dallas, where Southwest started, and it's still. So if
Well,
you ever go,
one
if you ever fly
thing
to
that we
Love
look
Field in
at,
Dallas, you'll drive on the road named after him.
one thing that we look at here at Tela, because and I want to emphasize this, everyone. I think the worst part about business is people. Pause. Okay, people are in all businesses. But also the best part about business is people, right? And so, at Telehub, we work with our products people, our clients are people, right? The people who work here are people. And so one of the things I love saying is that if we can just care for our people, the people will care for us, right? Because, I mean, you work for your clients, right? And when you're working with your clients, you're trying to get the best information, the greatest outcome, right? If you just put in the interest to them, you're going to put in the work that delivers the positive outcome. If you don't care about the outcome of that individual, you're just seeing them as a retainer of an invoice, right? You're like, hey, listen, sorry, Cody, you're looking at 3 to 5 years for your felony misdemeanor or whatever. You're going to have to take the plea, man. Versus like, hey, let's actually consider what we can do about this. I think I think we said in the Marine Corps is the give a care factor, right? The more you care about the individual people involved, the better the outcome is going to be altogether. So the care factor.
Right. Empathy, empathetic. Have empathy for these people, right?
There we go. There we
While
go.
you may not have made the decisions they made, you didn't walk in their shoes. And I used to, when I was a young man, I used to have all kinds of judgments of people. And now
Yeah,
I judge very few people. You know what I mean? I've grown up, I've matured, and I recognize that most people are doing the best they can do, given their circumstances. And most people are truly good. I've been
I
fortunate
agree.
to be able to travel, and I know you've traveled around the world, and I've been fortunate to travel around the world, and I've been in a lot of countries. I've been to Sri Lanka. I've been to most of Europe. I've been to most of the states. And the thing I can tell you is people are good. At their core, human beings
Yeah,
are good people and they want to do the right thing. And it doesn't matter where you're at. That is one thing that you can the bank. Yes, there are some bad apples out
yeah, of
there. Yes, there are some people
course.
that are difficult, but the overarching thing, I believe, having met people from literally all over the world, I've met people in third world countries living in freaking beaches in Haiti. I mean, I've seen it all. Give you the shirt off their back and they don't have a shirt. Like people as a general rule are good, and you should strive to find the good in people. And if you do that, you will live a happier life.
I agree. And the way I bottle that is positive intent, right? I try to enter every situation with positive intent. And I was just telling this to a client just this week. Called in because I actually, speaking of people, right? People coming and going. Well, all my account managers, they report to me. So we had account manager had a family emergency where it was immediate and almost, I'm sure, permanent, resignation. And so I had to take on the responsibility of her cases, her clients, right? And so one of the clients called me. I've been far removed from client relationships up to this point, and he called me and said, "Hey, listen, I can't get a hold of my virtual assistant. Well, how long have they been missing? Well, they didn't show up for the meeting this morning. I don't think they're working." I was like, "Well, let's understand that there's a lot of things that can happen between, Pensacola, Florida, and, Oaxaca, Mexico, right? Let's talk about like something had to happen. So turns out there was a temporary power outage that impacted Wi-Fi, right? But the initial thought immediately was that they weren't doing the right thing. And I was like, well, let's understand that there's all types of possibilities in this world. Don't start in the negative. I always like, hey, listen, something had to happen. Even when I can't get in contact with my employer or something, because I run an entire virtual company, we have so many virtual staff members. If I can't get in contact with someone, my first intent is I hope they're okay. Right. I mean, wow. I mean, like I can't get in contact with them. Like if I call them on Slack and then I call them on their phone and I can't get in contact with them, I'm not worried about them working. I'm worrying if they're okay, right? And so I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think at large, there's a lot of good in the world. It's just easier sometimes to focus on the bad.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I work real hard to try to not assume the worst, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really work hard to try to see the best, and, it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect at it, but you know what? I'm not done living either. So, hopefully continue to get better because you gotta understand 95%, what they say, 95% of thought is subconscious. And so your
Yeah.
subconscious is being controlled by your biases and your prior experiences, right? And so if your subconscious isn't looking at things the right way, 5% that's making the conscious decisions isn't gonna make very good. And so you should focus on some of that. I mean, the mindset stuff, but I do think that looking at the trying to look at the positive in things like you do, uh, will make things better because there's a lot of positive in the world.
You know, I, Don, I want you to read my book when I get ready to get it out to have people. You know, you seem like a reader. And I'm getting ready to launch a book here in the coming months once I get done polishing it. And it's around the idea of implementation of virtual staff, but primarily because of chapter zero. And I named it chapter zero because I thought that'd be fun, right? And so and the whole idea was that we call people virtual assistants, freelancers, international staff, but we forget they're human. And so I assigned this chapter to the human side of people, right? And one of the things that I put is like, these people have families, ambitions, dreams, things that they're aiming to do today and tomorrow, right? And they are just as much a tool to you as you are to them with their future success, right? And then, like, we should treat them like that way. I think that you would have an interesting perspective on some of the verbiage that I use there, but I think it's just very important that someone said we must extend trust because imagine if you didn't trust anybody. Imagine if you could never trust anybody.
That's a tough place to be, and, I've been to El Salvador twice now to visit my teammates
Wow,
and go out
it's awesome.
with them and go to the beach and sort of get to know them even more than I do, they are absolutely fascinating, educated, smart people. I mean, they know more about Donald Trump and the American system, of government than most
And
Americans
Americans,
really do. Right, you know what I
correct?
mean? And yeah, that, their country right now is, they've got it's a lot safer, but, the human rights problem that they have currently because of that safety, a whole lot of people getting locked up for a whole lot of nothing, in that great prison down there, that bothers them, right? Like, yes, they know it's a
Correct.
safer place. They know that I wouldn't have come if it wasn't safer, with the new president there and what he's doing to make it safer, but, they're telling me how it got safe, and that was locking a whole bunch of people up, and may not be guilty, for being, connected to a
Well,
gang, but maybe they're not in a gang. And they're very aware of that, and, they're very
yeah,
concerned about, the dictator in Venezuela and what may happen with that. So, these people are just as smart and just as intelligent as anybody I would employ in America, probably definitely smarter than what I can get for what I'm paying for them. You know
correct.
what I
Right? Isn't
they
that a
just
beautiful thing?
don't have the same opportunities, right? They don't have the same economy, the jobs aren't there, for them, but, they value the job they do have, they show up to work every day, work hard, don't complain, you don't have a lot of the problems you have with Americans. They really work very hard and value the job and value the opportunity and realize how fortunate they are to have it. And, there's not a lot of American admins that see it that way. But
Yeah,
all the ones I've had in Mexico and El Salvador and the Philippines have been eternally grateful for whatever opportunity they have, having a job. Many of them are supporting their entire families on what we're paying them. Um, and
correct.
and that's not lost on me either. I mean, I mean, one of my El Salvador's employees has a daughter, he has an ailing mother, he's got a sister. I mean, they're all there, even on the salary that I pay. And, that's
Yeah.
not lost either. He's doing a good job for me, and I have a responsibility to run a profitable business so I can keep to employ him so that he can take care of his family.
No, I love that. I was actually training someone today with one of my other account managers, and less me training, more me kind of like explain the ideals of things. And when I was chatting with them, because where you work with us, the person who does your interviews and everything is the same person who becomes your account manager. And that's important because I say when you're interviewing somebody, I like to ask people like, hey, Jonathan, what's your hobbies? What do you do for fun? Tell me about your family. And so, a couple of her test interviews, I realized she wasn't really asking these things. And I love asking those things because you find out what's important to a person, right? And if you know what's important to a person, if they have, anchors to family, anchors to hobbies, and, convictions, like those type of people you want to hire because you know that you're getting someone who has something that's greater than them. And like you said, the the compensation oftentimes we provide for people supports an entire family, right? And they have an opportunity. And what I really appreciate is the appreciation for the opportunity. In the United
Correct.
States, it's like, of
They're
course you
doing
should
you a
pay me
favor.
this much money,
Yeah.
right? You're welcome. I'm working for you, Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
Thank me more frequently versus the other way around. It's like, wow, I'm like, wow, I get to manage this company's social media in New York City. Like, how cool is that? Right. Like I live in,
Right.
Veracruz, Mexico. I'm like, I never thought I'd have this opportunity. And here they are, super thrilled about it, right? Making less than you would pay some, pardon my language, idiot, right, in New York who'd probably do half the job while they're trying to go to the park and not work, right? It just makes sense. I mean, I appreciate, this turns into a foreign employment advertisement. I appreciate it. It
Look,
just makes
I like I
sense.
said, I can't imagine not having my foreign employees ever again. And I'm gonna have more, as I continue to grow. And it's been an asset. The other thing is, Cody, you think about like we don't have like really commercial real estate's expensive, right? I don't have to put these people into $2.50, 250 a foot space, right? Like they're in a call center in El Salvador, right? I don't have to pay Social Security. I don't have to pay health
Right.
insurance. I just pay a company like yours and they handle everything. They handle the bonuses. They
Right.
handle the money, I mean, in El Salvador, they get paid or they get fired. I mean, whenever you're dealing with
Right.
a nearshore company, most of these countries, it's like 13 months, right? There is a built-in, if they're a government sanctioned job, they get a extra month of pay and bonuses. Usually they get
Yeah.
a paycheck to go on vacation and they get a paycheck at Christmas.
Inaugural.
And they usually
Correct.
get 2 weeks off in a row and they
Yeah.
get an extra paycheck to go on vacation and they get an extra paycheck at Christmas so they can buy some Christmas presents. And that's most countries. I don't know about Mexico. I think that was
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
when I was there.
We
You
call it
would
the,
know
we call it
more,
the
but that's
13th
definitely
month.
the way it is in El Salvador.
Yeah, we call it the 13th month, and it's called inaugural. And so it's a really great process to have someone. I don't, a lot of people who hire direct staff freelancers, teach their own, but oftentimes there's so many loopholes and things that need to be considered in regards to the care of the person that goes in. Oftentimes they're taken care of by like the company, right? Makes things easier. So no, I that's really cool that you do all that, Jonathan. I want to I want to come to a close here because I want to respect your time and I appreciate having you on today. Fascinating individual, right? Wonderful company you've built, and with such an emphasis on people and world participation to make this machine of yours function appropriately. And even with all the challenges that business owners have, I think that you create something really cool and with an amazing purpose that the team drives.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, and I appreciate the kind words there, Cody. I mean, we've worked really, really hard at it. We're not done. We're not done, right? This is a work in progress, and we can always be better. But I think anybody out there listening, I mean, you're talking about you can save 50, 40, 30% on all of these employees, and you don't have to put them somewhere. By getting people, you can get people that are just as smart, if not smarter, than people you will
Correct.
get more money in the United States. You're gonna get a better quality of worker who truly is gonna appreciate what you're able to do for them, and you're not gonna have to put up with a lot of the BS we do here in America. And so I would encourage anybody looking to scale or even looking for any kind of virtual assistant or anything, call some of these companies. Call telehelp, call Cody Hall, call any of these people And I think you would be amazed. No, most of these companies are not going to put you on a long term contract. Almost all of them are month to month.
Yeah,
I don't know about telehealth.
correct.
I know mine's month to month. Just see what it's like. Most of these companies are not going to charge a finder's fee.
Correct.
Because they're going to make money on you each month. So it's not going to cost you anything to do the interview. Find somebody, see if you can get them trained. And if it doesn't work out, you move on. But I think you'll find that it will. You'll be
And you
pleasantly
wasted such a little bit of money if it doesn't work out versus the other way around.
right. That's it.
Well, sir, no, I appreciate you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to a fellow Carolinian, and thank you so much for being on my podcast. It truly, the pleasure was mine.
Well, no problem, no problem. If anybody wants to reach out to me about what we're doing here or how we've done it, I'm Jonathan Breeden, Breeden. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on X at Breeden Law Office. I'm on Instagram at Breeden Law Office, TikTok at Breeden Law Office. Our website is breedenfarm.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Wherever you want to reach out, I got my own podcast, Best of Johnson County. If you're interested in a local community podcast and how it's done, had a ton of success
That's
with
cool.
that. Well, be glad to answer any questions people that are listening may have about nearshoring and offshoring. It's been a fascinating thing. Call Cody Hall. I'm sure they can help you out there in Cabo. It's a ton of fun, and I don't think you'll regret it.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We're going to put all your links inside of our description, and I want to sign off from the recording. Have a great day. Thank you for watching The Faces. Entrepreneurs are people too. Please like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Spotify so you do not miss any of our content just like today. We really appreciate you being one of our viewers, and see you soon.